So today's theme has been where the leaders have no vision, the people perish. I could pair with that where Jesus says, my people perish because of lack of knowledge, saving knowledge, understanding. They go together, you know. That's why you're also warned to beware of the yeast of the teachers. Because the yeast of the teachers creates confusion, perplexity. Now, yeasty leadership rises quickly, causes the bread to rise, right? The dough. But the heat eventually causes the yeast to expand and then pop. The yeast pops. It expands to the point where it dies. Now, yeast will either die, right, in the heat. Well, that's what it does. Pride comes before a fall. And that's an example. That is a metaphor for pride and confusion. Now, when you think about this, I want you to consider it in light of the world that you live in today, the confusion, the chaos, the desolation, the lies, the absurdity. And then I want you to think about something else. You've heard me say before. Professing themselves to be wise, they became fools. And their foolishness was seen in the folly of their ways, by the outcomes thereof. You see, those that look down on people that have faith in God and trust God and the Spirit of truth to guide them, bring them clarity, understanding, right? Those people seem foolish to the ones that think themselves wise in their own eyes. Yet in the end, the two things are seen to be what they are in their outcomes. God chose to use the foolish things of this world to confound those that are wise in their own eyes. Now think about that. All of these pieces flow together. The wisdom of man, works of the flesh. Those professing to be wise became fools. And God chose the foolish things of this world to confound those who are wise in their own eyes. When you're wise in your own eyes, you are filled with pride and arrogance, and indulge in avarice and hubris, which is folly, which creates the conditions for your downfall. So you may rise for a time, to the time where your pride outweighs your ability to cover your blind spots created by that pride, and you fall. And when you fall, you're either humbled or you are humiliated and destroyed. So when the leaders have no vision, it's because they're operating in their own wisdom, their own pride, their own arrogance. They're misapplying the knowledge that they have. They're denying the saving knowledge that could change things and prevent their bad outcomes. And they misuse their knowledge, and they even misuse what they misappropriate and gain, stealing it from others, and create more complexity, more problems, and greater consequences. Where the leaders have no vision, the people perish. There's a way which seems right in the eyes of many, but is really the path that leads to destruction. We walk not by sight, but by faith, in hearing the living word, which is the truth. And the truth not only sets us free, but it illuminates and exposes what was previously hidden in the darkness, not only in our own lives, but in the lives of those around us, while maintaining humility, disciplining us, because we see that but for the grace of God, there so we also would have gone or go. So why am I so hard on leaders? Leaders are just people just like me. Yes, they are just like me. That's why I'm hard on them. They're just like me in the flesh. They're also just like me in a lot of other ways. They have the opportunity to seek the truth. They have the opportunity to ask which way to go, and to work with others, and to take wise advice, and discern wisdom, true wisdom, godly wisdom, from the wisdom of men and women who are doing what is right in their own eyes. Now, on one hand, I'm really hard on leaders, and on the other hand, I pray for them and completely understand the predicament they're in. But they are leaders, and there are consequences to their choices and their actions because they have a greater ripple effect, a greater impact on the lives of many more people. In a more definitive and immediate way. So when solutions are put forth and offered to such leaders, and they refuse it, or they take it and do wrongly by it, there are consequences. Because they've taken saving knowledge, misappropriated it, and instead of actually using it wisely, they have used it and created the conditions for suffering and destruction through their own pride. That's why it's important to speak truth to those in authority. It's actually tough love. Now, do I get angry and go past that? Yes, I do. I did that earlier today. I was absolutely frustrated, tired, and went too far. That's the point where righteous indignation becomes corrupted and becomes fleshy anger and rage and wrathfulness. And I'm as prone to it as anyone else. Probably more so, because I see so much that should be done differently and that isn't. And I get frustrated. And I take my eyes off the Lord. And I want to punish those for what they're doing. Sometimes I'm not sure when I cross the line. Sometimes I'm not sure if I have crossed the line. But there are times I absolutely know I have crossed the line. The question is, do you know when you've crossed the line and what the effects of it are when you're a leader and you're in your pride and you can't admit your insufficiencies because of your pride, and thusly cannot learn from your mistakes nor take responsibility for them and change? Now think on that for a little bit. This world is fake. It demands that people are conformed to the image of this world, which is not authentic. It's a counterfeit. It's a counterfeit of the real. And so people that are locked in their counterfeits or enslaved to them become proxies for that counterfeit and enforcers of that counterfeit on everybody else. But they too are responsible for their own choices and actions and the outcomes thereof, and their refusal to take responsibility. Which is why they want to put it on everyone else. But the truth of the matter is that they may work for a time in appearance here, but the time always comes when the consequences far outweigh the ability to stave them off, because pride comes before the fall. The question for you as a nation is, where are you in that timeline? Where are you as a leader in that timeline? See, God's grace is there to discipline, to correct, and instruct you as to how to make your decisions, how to change your trajectory. But that takes humbling. And in this world, the more power, wealth, and influence you have, the more it feeds your pride, your arrogance, your refusal to be teachable, your refusal to listen to others, and blinds you even more to your predicament. As it is for people, so too it is for the nation. There is a reason why nations fall. There is a reason why leaders fall. But when you live in a culture that has jettisoned objective truth is called a lie, eventually in a advanced pathology. So truth is called a lie, and lie is called the truth. And that is the final stage before a fall, before the humbling or the humiliation. Do you not discipline your children when they go astray and do something that's harmful to them? Do you not instruct them to do things that they shouldn't, that they should stay away from and not do because of the harm it causes to them and others? Why would you think God would be any different with us? So, we talk about spare the rod, spoil the child. There's also a rod of correction that's used on nations. It's an iron rod. He who overcomes, right? He will rule the nations with a rod of iron and break them to pieces like pottery. Is that an act of hatred? No, it's an act of love. It's correction. It's discipline. It's also an act of justice and mercy and protection and courage. It's an act of true leadership. But it seems like folly and foolishness to those who are perishing in their pride. But the warnings still come. If for nothing else, so that when they do fall, they have no excuse. What was a blessing that they denied then becomes a curse to them that they have to accept, and their consequences. We are in a dire spot as a nation. We're in a dire place as a people. And the pride, fear, and confusion will not suffice to change that predicament, nor will electing counterfeits to leadership or being a counterfeit leader, wherever that may be in our society across the 7 spheres. There will be accountability. There will be consequences. And the greater your fear, it's one of a few things. One, you're fearful because you know what I'm saying is true, but you don't want to believe it. but you know it's true, but you want to deny it anyway because you're fearful of being exposed as a fraud, as incompetent, as corrupt. Or you're fearful because you understand that things are bad, you don't know how to change it. And you don't know how to let go of it and give it to God. But God did not give you a spirit of fear nor of confusion, but of peace, love, power, and a sound mind. Fear creates perplexity, confusion, all manner of things that scramble your thinking and your decision making. So there's a lot of people that make bad decisions because of fear, not because they are inherently completely corrupted and have jettisoned the truth. Sometimes they just are worn down and worn out, and they don't take things to God, and they make bad decisions that affect people, and it's hard for them to deal with that. But there is forgiveness and grace for those that are willing to see it and accept responsibility and let God turn it around and work it together for their favor and the good of others. But then there's the prideful, arrogant ones, and they're not willing to do that for anybody. And they always expose themselves. They always do. All through human history. Same thing goes with, as it is for people, for nations. Can a nation turn back from the brink of its destruction and calamity? Yes, it can. Even the most debauched. But it takes being humbled. And many among them being humiliated because they won't let go of their pride. Which one are you? I can tell you why I go past the point where I should, from righteous indignation into wrathfulness. It's utter frustration. It's at times a feeling of a sense of helplessness. Perplexity. And that's when I have to go and step away and give it to the Lord. And I need brothers and sisters to also call me out on it and help me reel it back in a loving way. And when I do that, I can then come back, even in a day when I've been frustrated and angry all day, and have a rational, cogent conversation with you about all of it. That's by the grace of God. Because not only am I willing to see the error of my ways, I am grateful when I see them. And I can learn from them and not repeat them. And I can trust that God will work it all together for my good, His glory, and the greater good of the entire body of Christ and the entire nation. But that seems like folly and foolishness to so many here. That's okay. You're free to believe that. In the end, I will be proven right, regardless. It's not dependent upon whether you accept that or not. But ask yourself, what do you see? Can you truly deny that people are perishing, they're struggling, they're frustrated, They're upset. Their anger is bowled over at times. They're sad. They're depressed. And they're dying. Because of what? One, their own choices in some cases. But at the macros, the conditions created by leaders without vision, which is why the people perish. But it isn't just the leaders, it's also the people that follow those leaders that share some of the responsibility for their own choices and how their own choices aggregate with their leaders to create the conditions of suffering and death. You have a systematic error. Your OS is corrupted here. I mean, what do you do if your computer systems have a corrupted operating system? Don't you do a fresh install of a new OS? Doesn't that remove the old operating system and put in a new operating system? Yet you think it's bizarre when Christians talk about receiving a new OS, a new nature, being born again, having a fresh install, being born again, and having being a new creation. That's a problem for you, huh? Why do you think that is? I mean, some of you are probably around a lot of religious people that never answer your questions. You probably were hurt by them. You probably got hurt because you had someone you cared about die or go through incredible suffering and didn't seem like God was there. But there's more to the story than what you see and what you feel. But it still sucks here. It sucks here because the operating system of the entire world still is infected with malware. It's still infected and corrupted. And that causes suffering and pain and death that touches everyone's lives. That's not God's doing. God allows it because he gave people free will. It is up to them to walk out of the prison of lies and the darkness and to see their own stuff and let him free them from the chains of the lies. But most people never will allow that to happen. So the world is what it is because people chose for it to be so. And they have an adversary that deceives them into continuing to keep the wheels going on an OS that has been corrupted from long ago. Same things happen in nations. If you don't take care of your nation, you turn away from truth and love and justice and mercy, from humble and contrite hearts, what do you think's going to happen? Eventually, the malware, the corrupting influences in your operating system will eventually cause the operating system to slow down, the machine to slow down, and things to start not working well, right? to the point where it can no longer function. And it's corrupting everything. That's what you have here. That's the stage you're at in America here. Everything is being corrupted. It's being misused, abused. That's the final stage. If we were to look at America as a computer, and all the nations as computers in a giant network, a network of networks, if you will, and people as nodes within the network computer of their nation state, you start to see where I'm going with this. As it is for people, so too it is for nations. And because we all are vulnerable to corrupting influences, the flesh is weak, it's vulnerable. You can see that with COVID. Just like a computer is vulnerable, our electronic devices are vulnerable to certain things. Malware, right? Intrusions into the network. People that hack systems for malicious intent. Think about the signals, right? Go back to signals. Go back to broadcasting. What are you broadcasting? Think about our broadcast systems here. What are they broadcasting? Confusion, lies. That's not their role. The role is to broadcast facts, the truth. But when those organizations become infected with malware, and the people in them become corrupted by it, and are ruled by fear and their own confusion, and pride in many cases, you start to see what happens and what the effects on that organization is, and how the organization infects and replicates that. Take a newsroom, for example, broadcast news in the entire country. Now add this social media to that. Add hostile actors outside the country that want to do people harm and create mayhem and chaos and confusion and fear and division and ultimately destruction and steal from you. Is that not what they do as well? So when you elect your own leaders and you have a corrupted people that's being corrupted exponentially by all the systems and the infections and malware across the nodes in the network that make up the nation, what do you think is going to happen? So some say, oh, well, then we don't need, we need a king, we need a dictator, whatever. Really, as if they're not corruptible or corrupted already. And how would you know the difference? If you yourself are unwilling to see yourself as you truly are, what makes you think you can see others as they truly are? And you're going to base your decisions upon that? Especially when picking or electing leaders? Really? How well is that working for you? You see, what I'm telling you is I'm explaining to you the reality that you live in, and why so many of us warn you and try to explain things to you, but you continuously are diverted by the system, because the system is designed, once it's corrupted, to divert you away from anything that will expose the strongholds in it that have co-opted it and are using it against you and your best interests. As it is for people, so too it is for their leaders. That's why you're told to pray for them. That's why you're told to speak truth to power. But how do you know you're in the truth when you've jettisoned the notion of objective truth, and it's all become subjective? It's all become politicized and corrupted. So what happens when you call truth a lie and accept lies as truth? What do you speak to the leaders? You're not speaking truth to the leaders, you're speaking lies. And you wonder why they lie back? They lie to you. You get what you chose. Now play that out in every sphere of the 7 spheres of society. Your family, your friends, your social setting, right? Your work, your vocation, your education, those you go to school with, those you work with, and the systems thereof. Your financial systems, your markets, your technology, your arts and entertainment, right? All the way around the horn to government and all the means and mechanisms of government. It spreads like a virus throughout the entirety of your OS as a nation. And that always brings calamity, suffering, injustice, pain, bondage, plunder, right? And what did I tell you? Satan comes to kill, steal, and destroy. Do you not see that in your culture? Do you not see that in your society? Do you not see that in all your systems? Blaming one another, politically and otherwise, is not going to change the predicament you are in. Taking responsibility for your own actions and learning to see yourself as you are in the light of truth, and seeking God's grace, His love, and His guidance will change the paradigm. Nothing else will. Only the truth and love brings about justice and mercy from humble and contrite hearts. Everything else that you try will fail and make things more complicated, increase the consequences, and lead to further suffering. And that's not what God wants. It's not what I want, personally or for anybody else. But the decision making that's going on in this country and in individual lives is evident in where we are collectively as a nation. So you should ask yourself why that is. And when you do, stand in front of the mirror when you ask. I told you I'm not here for a popularity contest. I never purported, never said that I was infallible. I admitted earlier in this talk my fallibility. But how do you know what I'm saying is true or not if you don't test it? You don't test my signals to you, what I'm broadcasting to you. If you never listen to it, or listen all the way through this, or never bothered to investigate it more, and it winds up being true, and you denied it, that's not my problem. That's not my fault. That's yours. You have to take responsibility for that, and the cascade effects thereof by denying it and not even being willing to investigate whether it's true or not, that will cause others to suffer as well as you. Do you understand? Think about it. Take the time to think about it. Shut off the diversions and think about it. What if the very things I'm telling you in this opens up a door for you to walk out of the bondage and the enslavement in your thinking, in your life, that you've wrestled with and struggled with your entire life? What if it opens the door for you to understand things that you've wondered about your entire life and frees you from things that you couldn't see before? It's worth at least a little bit of your time, don't you think? And what if you are key? What if you are key to doing that for others and starting a positive change in the trajectory of this country that turns this country completely around and moves it off the path towards destruction, towards something that is amazing and worthy of people to actually live in. And it becomes a true example, a true city set upon a hill, bright shining for all the world to see. Not a counterfeit. And not a footnote in history. Don't you think it's worth that? Because maybe you are that important. Maybe you don't understand what you're capable of doing when you're free from your lies, from your pride, from the fear and confusion, and how the ripple effect of you getting free may be the very thing that changes everything for good. As it is for people, so too it is for nations.